Sure.
I was just wondering if you can tell me this, what I've been thinking about is the ones that, you know, the initial calls that you get here.
Mm-hmm.
And when the people that are answering the phone, what happens after that? What process do you go through in order to decide what you're gonna do to help that person?
I can
She's
answer,
right
or
here.
Deb can answer, because this is what
Yeah.
Deb does.
Yeah. So, once they finish the intake, what we do is we send them releases. So releases are assigned for people who understand their situation.
What is the intake? Is
The
that
intake
just
is the thing that happens over the phone,
Okay.
where they're talking to the intake specialist and we're listening to their story and we're getting information, we're finding out who's supportive and just really, it's the listening of the story.
Okay.
So, and then what their need is. So,
Yes.
and then once they complete that, then we send out releases. And they need to send the releases back in order to continue the process. So if they
Some
don't
of them-
send the release back, then the process stops.
Mhm.
So, and we also follow up by sending them, we call them love notes, you know, just letting them know that we're praying for them.
Okay.
And, yeah.
How
so-
many of those do you send out if they don't reply, maybe? If they don't send their notices back?
How many? I would say we get the majority of releases back. I would say maybe, I don't know, I'd guess about 75%.
We really,
You mean love notes? We might send another note at the end if we, right? If they don't reply with the releases, eventually we'll send them a note and close the folder.
Yeah, so, yep, if we don't get a
Couple
release back
months.
within a couple weeks, we'll call them, make sure that they got it, remind them, if they misplaced it or something, we'll send them another one. And then if we don't hear from them after that, then we close it, and we still send another note, letting them know that we're gonna continue to pray for them, and that if there's anything else we can help them with in the future, not to hesitate to call. I guess our theory is that we are an organization of many chances. So, you know, we will just take them where they're at on the day that they call and help them as best as we can. So, once we get those releases back, then the process of the verification starts. Like, we're contacting and finding out more about their story, and sometimes it helps us to determine other needs that they might have, or give us a little bit more background about what's going on.
Well, that's how I'm wondering, how does that work? Does that work as a group, or? Do you know
No,
what I mean?
generally I make that decision, and if I have any questions or I'm unsure, I can talk to Danita about it.
Okay.
So, sometimes we call the client back for more verification. You know, I'm a little bit confused by this. Could you just tell me a little bit more?
Okay.
You know?
I'm
So-
thinking of 3 different situations right now where they won't send in the information.
Mhm.
You know, so it just, so I guess that's why we're kind of wondering. Difficult, you know, challenging situations, but
Well,
they
and-
don't want to disclose any more information, so then you can't really do anything until they do.
Right, because the whole, as we've gone through this redemptive compassion, it's to involve the client.
Uh-huh.
Getting
And I think that
input.
they've never
No,
experienced it.
and they probably never have. And it's
Right.
a very new concept, even
Yeah.
for people, just, not our clients, just for the general community.
Absolutely.
It is.
To understand. Because most times, the charity, if we wanna get into terminology, is, not transformational, but transactional. We just give you stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what they're used to.
And they, yeah.
And and I think other affiliates have found that while they may be resistant at first, if whatever persists in their life, there may come a time when they're desperate enough to actually give in and say, because it is humbling to invite someone into your junk, into your mess, and then, but once they're there, and if they can find out that we are a safe place, that we're not condemning, that we're like, okay, here's your problem, let's just see what we can do to move forward, instead of, you dummy. I mean, and that's why I'm sure what they've gotten before, which may be why they don't want to go there.
but as intake specialists, we make it very clear to them that unless we get those verification forms back, the process goes nowhere. So, I mean, I say it probably 4 times on the call, you
Okay.
know. So they're at the very beginning, I didn't do that. I just kind of followed the script, but now we know that, you know, people really have to understand that if they don't send those in, then. But we had one, I talked to her last week, and Deb found out about this Choose to Reuse that's coming up on the 18th, and she needs furniture. So we haven't gotten our releases back yet, but I called her again today to let her know about that program. And then I just asked, did you get the releases? Oh yeah. Well, then she had misunderstood, and she thought she had to take those somewhere to get them signed. So it just kind of, you know, so
And
sometimes,
that was a godly.
although it was so clear,
Sure.
I mean, I thought it was clear when we
Well, and
talked.
even I send a letter that explains exactly how to fill them out.
People
I
still get
highlight what they
confused.
need to sign, and still, you know, and everybody has different reading abilities and
that's true,
stuff,
too.
and so.
Plus they're listening to others around them, you know, that then pretty soon they lose that, they had that little bit of courage to try, and then they kind of pull back, because they hear the same things coming at them, and then, oh, I can't do that, you know, but.
Yeah.
But on the process, when they first call, you had mentioned before that one question you really liked is how would you rate your life today on a scale of 1 to 10? That just takes them by surprise. Nobody ever asked them that, I feel like a lot of times. But gosh, once you start the process, they all want to start talking. After they realize that this person's really listening, they want to have somebody to talk to. I've found that anyway.
I would think so. I mean,
So how can you coach us when we're out there in the field and we know about these situations and they still haven't done that, but they still are just kind of lingering and moldering in their situation? What can you coach us to?
So I really felt like that was what today's lesson is
All
really
right.
about, isn't
Okay,
it?
well, yeah, we
All
can.
right.
I mean,
We can start in
because
prayer,
it's
because this
very-
whole day is basically discussion, and this is really a great start.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a good lead-in, so,
I
uh,
appreciate it very much.
yeah. So Lord, we just ask your presence, we know you're always with us, but we just ask in a special way that you would guide our words, our thoughts, our hearts, that we can reach out to others with your love, Lord, that we can point to you in this whole process, so that not only our clients would be transformed, but we also, as we do your work, would be transformed. And we just ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So, yeah, so if we kind of look, I mean, I think all the points, for me teaching this, I've gotten a ton out that I can use just every day in my life. So I'll kind of review the points from this last lesson. Here we go. So of course we had the 5 lessons, and it talked about God uses the hard times in life to transform us. That, and I think Lois in earlier lessons have pointed out, is when we bail people out short term in their trouble, do we allow God to work through and let this client learn the lesson God desires from their life? Because sometimes we may short circuit what God's doing in their life. And I had never ever thought of that before. I don't know anybody else, but God can take what we have and multiply it to meet our need. Everybody has something to offer. And I can't remember exactly on the intake form, but is there a question? It's like, what do you have? What gifts do you have?
No, not really.
Not yet. Okay, that comes later.
But I've noticed if I can pick up in the conversation something positive that they are doing, that they've mentioned it, or I've done this at the food pantry too, people were talking, and wow, I noticed that you are really a hard worker. I think you can do this because I can see that you're working hard. They just kind of like pick right up.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and they start talking some more just because you see something in them. So sometimes it's just an observation that I know. I mean, I don't know what happened after that, but so like that kind of makes it a little bit different from some of the other resources. You can say, well, this is a non-judgmental phone call. I mean, if you call, nobody's going to judge you. If you call, they're there to just listen to you, and you never know, they might be able to help you.
The question is, if there was one thing in your life that you could change, what would it be?
Yeah, that's
So today, the guy said, well, I wish my health would improve. So then, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. And the next question is, what are you doing to make your
Yes,
situation
that-
better?
that's true.
So when I asked him that question, he said, well, I'm taking my medications and I'm going to the doctor when I'm supposed to. So then, we give him some
Affirm.
positive, we
Yeah.
give him some affirmation. And then, I can't remember the third question in that sequence. But anyway, so I think that's maybe what you were thinking of.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it's been, I took the training before we even started, so, and I know you've
Yeah.
tweaked since then.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and work is a gift from God.
Yeah.
It gives us purpose, it gives us a way to use our giftings.
Yep.
I think a lot of people don't look at work as a gift anymore. They look at it as something you have to do just to survive. And so you can find any enjoyment in it. It's just, something I gotta get through.
Yeah, if I don't get a paycheck if I don't show up,
Right.
and which is unfortunate that how the percentage of life that you have to spend at work,
Yeah.
that hopefully it would be something that you enjoy. And I understand sometimes that isn't always happen,
Yes.
and there's always, as my mother-in-law would have said, the calf pens to clean in any job. There's always a part you don't like. Yeah, she had all kinds of sayings, but anyway.
That's funny.
And so she goes on and says, the attitude of gratitude, how important that is. And Tom and I have, because my undergrad degree is in science, so I'm geeky enough to like all these little things. You can change how your brain works if you smile, if you're thankful, that they have discovered that whatever brain circuits you use the most become like well-worn paths. It's a
Yes.
path that's worn. And so if you're always negative, that's where you default.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think, joy and thankfulness open your emotional circuits. Your negative, your anger,
down.
sad, shut it down, and you don't think as well. But if you're thankful or joyful, then you are able to use your brain in a much better, complete way.
It's amazing to me, often in the Bible, it puts prayer and thankfulness together. First, we are to thank God, and then we are to pray for the things that we need. And joy is in there
It's part of that,
sometimes
too.
too. That's very interesting to me that those two are together.
Yeah.
I think a joyful heart is so important.
Well, and
Well, a joyful heart is good medicine, but a
Spirit dries
which
up.
kind of spirit?
Crushed spirit.
A crushed spirit dries up the bones. Yeah.
and how many of our clients, when you say have a crushed
Spirit
spirit?
crushed.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing, it was so interesting that Lois ended with on day 5, don't be the everything for your clients. Let
Right.
God
Be the everything.
be there,
Right.
which is like, I never thought of that one either. So, and I guess we can go ahead. I don't know if anybody got a chance to read the wagon principle, which is way at the end. We can kind of eventually talk about that too. But, But things that stood out, I mean, for what she had said about redemptive compassion basically, we're at the end of the book, so things that really, maybe were new to you or you found really useful.
It was all good.
Yeah, it was.
It's a very good study, I think.
Yeah, cause I liked how she always kept pointing, what's the Bible say? What's the Bible say?
Right,
What's
it's
the
very
Bible say?
scriptural.
Yeah.
Very.
So, any more questions on, if we wanna start applying what Lois has said to like Love Inc. or the people that you're trying to encourage to find a new path? I think just realizing that we are different. And the clients, even, I thought Lois put it really well. As she began the wagon principle, that, what was it? That, cause she says the redemptive compassion, she compares it to the quest for a new and better life, which is what the pioneers, of course, were trying to do. And then it's on page 172. And at the fourth paragraph down, it says, offering redemptive compassion is a holistic approach to the individual in need and requires a belief by those assisting that what is currently being done is not enough. This type of all-inclusive help can be challenging for the giver to extend because it is often not sought out or embraced initially by the one needing assistance, and requires an investment of time and relationship by all involved. And said, unless one believes that help in any other fashion will not free or transform, the journey can feel too overwhelming even to begin. And then she goes right on, not everyone who embarked on the journey westward made it.
Yeah.
And so in our journey, I think. But any other comments or anything else you'd say to Carmen? How do you help these people?
I would think, I think back to Carmen's, your discussion about when it appears people don't want to help themselves, and the ones who call or even the case studies in the book, when they want to help themselves or they're in the process of helping themselves, it's feels easier, because to me that's the impetus, the whole motivation. If they have motivation to change, then our job of walking with them to make those change becomes more of a supportive role. Not from it's a God-given supportive role. But the people who haven't yet found that motivation to change is the challenge. So, I think of, my past life as an HR manager, HR director. We had workers who had the motivation to, work hard and do well and improve. And we had a number of workers who didn't have that motivation. And so, there's the whole carrot and the stick approach, and that may or may not work. And it's finding a connection to that person. So, it's really relationship driven, I think. And that's why I think our work takes more time than, but it's helping them find the motivation to make changes in their lives. And some people are not going to do that until they hit absolute rock bottom. And even then, it may not, because they know if they know no other way, that to me is the hard thing. So my son and fiance are addiction counselors, And Matt, he works at a 120 bed addiction facility, a resident facility, and he works with young men aged 18 to 25. He did work for a while with kids under the age of 18 who are in this facility for some kind of an addiction. And I have talked to him a lot, over the years that he's been there, and he said, we teach them from very early on all the skills that they need. So the kids that are there who are 12, we teach them the exact skills that they need to kick their addiction. But he said, because he counsels boys, first of all, their prefrontal lobe is not even developed enough to be able to logic through making that decision. So he said, that's kind of against us from but he said, we plant seeds.
Yeah.
So he said, my job to work with those kids, and even the guys that he works with now, is some make it and some don't. And he said, it's a lot easier if they come in having already been at rock bottom or have that motivation. They already get it. Then he can be more of a facilitator.
Yeah,
But
same
if not, he tries to teach them the skills that they need for when they do finally get it, that they can at least fall back on that and establish relationships. So, he calls them on their bad behavior. He, counsels them, but I sort of think of that's sort of how our work is. We're planting seeds. We're trying to develop a relationship. It's not a one-time fix normally for our work either.
Yeah, I like the comments at the end where she points out for us to remember it's God's just using us. It's really
Right.
God doing the work, and kind of made me a little bit more aware that I can say that to people, to the clients. I can say that, God does want you to have a good life. I know He does, and maybe He has a better plan for you. And, I feel like I have to keep that straight in my mind and directed. That's what it's about. It's not about us. It's about God's work.
And I think what I've observed in life is that people will not act in a way that is contrary to what they think of themselves. So if they have heard that they're just a big dummy, that they're incapable, they'll be like, even if you tell them to do that, well, that's not me. I'm not. I'm too stupid. I can't do that. And even some of the ways we do charity,
Yes.
we come in and say, and it isn't even if you think that, just by the action.
Yes.
That I know more, you're so stupid, here is food, here is gas, whatever it is. And they're like, well, I'm just dumb and I'll have to wait till the next time somebody gives me some. But if you can show them that they have worth, and probably it starts in your eyes, that they have something, you're a hard worker, you're doing your med, you're doing what you're supposed to help them see that they have worth in God's eyes. Because if they can see themselves as a child of the King, wow. But that's a big change. And in my opinion, you need a lot of Holy Spirit in the whole mix to make that change. But sometimes we have to be Jesus with skin on, I think, to come alongside. And you do have worth, you do have giftings, and let God multiply it. Kind of, it's like, well, I don't have much. Well, look, let me tell you about this little boy who just gave his lunch up and fed, thousands of people. That God can work through anything that's yielded to Him. But if they think they can't do it, they probably won't try. It's been what we have found out. Does that help at all, Carmen?
Yeah, I just, you had made some comment too, and I should have stopped you right then to repeat it so I could write it down, of something to say, to an individual that's I think, people are so beaten down that they
Oh,
just
the
don't-
word non-judgmental. If they
Yeah.
call here, it's not, people will hear the story and won't judge. I don't know if that's something you can be
Yeah.
trying to talk to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, I think sometimes people just don't have the skill set because they've never been taught. They've never had the opportunity to learn a different way to behave.
But that's where isn't that where the gap ministries are gonna come in, like the skill set to learn how to
Mhm.
budget and learn how to
Mhm.
cook nutritionally, and,
Well, and just even the one, because Love INC, hopefully, once we make it to the transformational part, we keep
yeah.
drooling, it's like,
We
Lord,
can't
let us go
wait."
there, but, faith and finance, and then affirming potential. That I think that is,
Oh, that's a good one.
Can
Yeah.
you give me the levels again? I know Pastor Shane here also talked about that. So right now, Love INC is at what stage?
just, well, yeah, we're still developmental, we're technically not an official Love INC yet, you have to be open up. The Connection Center has to be open a year before they could consider us official.
Okay.
So that's coming up in August. So the Connection Center, if you wanna think of a house, we're in the basement.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember the picture. There's an official Love INC picture of a house with the different levels. But, as we move forward, we know we want to hire what they call a volunteer coordinator, because they can coordinate more. We have our own volunteers that we've interviewed for certain, like our intake and property care and some other things, but the churches also have their volunteers. And to coordinate who could do transport to
Yeah.
doctor's office and who has plumbing skills or a truck to move items or, all these other pieces that really, Deb and Danita are pretty much at capacity now, and to put even more on them makes it pretty hard. And so when we have the ability to pay another staff person, that would be the next one to bring our volunteers into, because we might need a volunteer from CLF and Faith Reform to get together to do whatever it needs to be done, kind of thing. And then the gap ministries, that we address things that no agency, no church in town is really doing much with, but we find the need keep, popping up over and over
So
again.
the gap ministries will address the needs not met by anything else in the community?
Yeah, and I think we're seeing moving, some
Moving,
transportation.
Furniture, and furniture from both sides, one for
Mhm.
people who want to
Get rid of it.
donate it,
Yeah.
and then for others who need it, so that's a big one. Re-entry from jail, when they're getting out of
Yes,
jail,
please.
homelessness,
Mhm.
those are big ones too,
Mhm.
So,
transportation.
Because there's not any, other than taxis, any public.
There's some, but it's limited, and
Yeah.
there's a bigger demand
Than
than the supply.
so reentry from jail, transportation, what were some of the others?
I think the homeless, we get calls for someone who's like literally homeless, they need a place to stay tonight.
Mhm.
Which hoping, once Helping
Hands
Hands
gets
after
on their
this
feet
year,
again, yeah.
hopefully will. So, the moving, did we say the
Oh,
moving?
yeah,
that's
moving
another
and
one.
furniture, you said.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one. And
Kind
so-
of interesting that these aren't even including food.
We have a lot of food
Yeah.
resources, we really do, I think
Yes,
the
we're
doing
the
good on
coalition has
food.
come a long ways in the last 3 or 4 years,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
And then it begins into the transformational ministries, where we walk alongside, we can get them financial planning, you know, the financial part of it, dealing more with, the affirming potential, the emotional part, because lots of times the emotional part's hidden. If you, if we think, I don't know how many read
Wagon.
but the 4 wheels,
Mhm.
that
Spiritual,
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
Physical
and
relational.
relational.
You know, do you have, and you've seen that, do you have anybody that you could call to help?
No, right, a lot of them don't.
A lot of them are by themselves.
And you need all 4, I mean, we're so focused on stuff as middle-class people that was like, oh, we'll just throw things at them, but really that might be the last thing they need. They might, I think the emotional part's huge, because lots of people don't want to admit, I'm having a really hard time. I mean, you can put the mask on and try to cover up whatever it is that the problem is.
And that's also in transformation where you'll run the classes then? For-
Right.
Is that part of it too?
Well, and what we hope that our churches, because we don't necessarily, and may sound weird, need clients coming here, but we would like them
Go
to
to the church.
go to the churches, because we want to continue to help them connect with churches. But the affirming potential, that God has given you gifts that you can use to help yourself out of the situation. You might need a hand, and that's what we're here to walk alongside. And then they have a financial planning class that is specifically aimed towards the lower income. Like, financial peace is pretty much aimed square at middle income people.
Oh, okay.
But this would be for those maybe in generational poverty, because it's a whole different mindset.
Yep.
Lots of times those people, if I have money, I'm gonna spend it because I may never have it again.
Right.
And that's what they do. And so they have, you know, a gigantic TV, but then they can't pay rent or whatever, you know, whatever happens. But it's just a different mindset. And so they approach it, the teaching, in a different manner.
Sure.
One of the clients that I had talked to moved here from Rapid City, South Dakota, and I'm from South Dakota, so that was of interest, and my mother-in-law, and I have a bunch of relatives out there. And so she had just moved to the area and actually drove by the building, so saw our Love INC sign and looked us up online, and that's how she came to know us. But she had worked, she had gotten help through the Love INC of, it's called the Greater, it's located in Rapid City, but it's of the Greater Black Hills or something like that. So anyway, and I'm like, oh, well, tell me a little bit about it. Well, she said they have this big warehouse that, you know, I could get a bed for my grandchildren, but then I had to work X number of hours. And so, you know, we looked it up online, and it was like, oh, obviously they're way in the transformational. They had so much when we looked at it. So it would just be interesting if you guys ever want to look at it. It's called just Love INC Rapid City, South Dakota, because they have like 30 partner churches, and they had this big like spreadsheet, and they had all the churches that were offering these classes, and then all the different classes and the dates and then that people could plug into. And they had this giant warehouse. It used to be a car dealership where they had all this furniture.
They've been in
and-
business for like 16 years,
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
years or something like
Yes,
that.
considering we're 9 months.
Right. But I mean,
excited.
we were so like, come here and look at this. This is awesome. This is going to be us.
Yeah.
We were
Well,
just drooling.
So,
Well, Danita and I have done the same thing. It's like, because what they all do in the Boise area, one, is they have Nice is New or something. It's like a boutique kind of
clothing,
thing that they only sell, or it's donated things, but they're nice. And the other part of that is the clients can earn so many points, and then they can get, I mean, if they take these classes or
Okay.
whatever, however they've designed it, it's like the carrot,
Sure.
that if I
Give
show
a
up at
little
class
voucher
every
to go
time,
shopping, huh?
I can go shopping with so many points.
And
Yeah.
that's what they do with the mothers at
Oh, first choice?
first choice.
Oh.
They earn
Oh.
points. If they go to their classes, if they do all these things, and they can go shopping
Uh-huh.
for their baby.
Cool.
Downstairs.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
same.
Cool.
So what I'm wondering, so do you know if that you see in Boise and do you see in that
Rapid City.
area that from the grassroots, you actually are then changing the landscape of the community?
Yes, that is
I
the
think
next
that's-
one. Once you get into this transformational one, and you have obviously a lot of pull, that you begin to transform the community and you begin to look at maybe housing codes. You know, what can we?
And there's more cloud.
Yes, because you've been there, because you have more people, you have clients that have been helped.
Well, and you have all the church members
Yeah.
who then are supporting, because they're seeing more. Well, it's hard to say they're seeing results because they're, but
But
it's changing people's lives, and again, it's Christ-centered. I think
Right.
that's what we always have to come back to.
Yep.
You know, so do you see that? Maybe we see the effects of that Christ-centered relationships, but those are the types of things you measure more than.
Yeah. No wonder your mouths are watering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I
You should look
know.
at that website.
Yeah,
That
you
is-
should.
well,
I mean,
even,
it's just,
what
yeah.
they'll do is maybe you have some furniture that's donated that's kind of beat up. It's still serviceable, but doesn't look so hot. I think Boise, and I think
We'll have
Lois,
people
because
that
Lois
clean
talks
it
about
up.
doing this,
Mhm.
So then they have a
invites
shop.
the clients in and helps them redo it.
So they
You know,
learn a
because some of these
skill.
people don't even know how to like refinish a piece of furniture or paint, or
Oh, yeah.
they don't know what to do.
We're gonna find that more and more because it's not being taught. now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was a 4-H'er,
Right.
so we did
Because
Yeah.
of the family
something every
unit.
year.
Yeah,
But
me
Integration.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to be the dad would teach all that stuff to their
Mhm.
kids. Well, that's not happening anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
but so you have a volunteer that's working alongside a client to restore. And what a beautiful picture of
Mhm.
not restoring only this
Oh,
piece
yeah.
of furniture, but
You're showing the person.
right. And then they can either, use their points to buy it, or they can be sold and they can have points to buy something else, kind of thing. But, so, I mean, that's just another step. And, at the gathering last year, they always have the national gathering in Minneapolis, they had I want to say they were from Arkansas. I would have to go back and look to say for sure, but it was more of a southern state, that they have this one huge day where they invite people in, and they have like stations. So you can get clothing, food, so some of this is transactional, and then they begin to move. They have a judge there, so if you have any outstanding warrants on you, they can take care of that with legal, and they have lawyers that
Legal
come
Wow.
to
That's
take
nice.
care of that, because sometimes they're just on the street because they're hiding from
Yeah.
something. So let's take care of this, get this taken care of, a place that can sign up for job skills and jobs. They had about a half a dozen things where they come with this massive, the planning obviously takes months, but that they can take care of these people physically. Let's find them, they have landlords, let's find them landlords with the housing authority together. Let's find these people a place to live, let's find them furniture, let's get them a job, let's get them now, does everybody follow through? Probably not, but a big chunk of that, they try to address as much as they can with all these different groups working together, and that was like, wow.
Mind-boggling, wow.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, what you
When
could
is the
do.
national gathering in Minneapolis every year? Is it?
14th, 15th, and 16th of August. I checked my phone, his
That's fine.
it's filming, so it's in the camera. But anybody can go. It's held at Chaska. I think it's in Chaska it's like, I can't remember, I'd have
That's
to,
okay.
if you look at Love Inc. national events on their webpage, that it'll all be there.
Okay.
But, they have different tracks this year. Each year they do it a little bit differently.
Sure.
But that you can sign up for a track. But it's an amazing thing to listen to what other, I mean, things that I would never thought of a day to do all this kind of stuff. You know, and some people are just welcomers. They just listen, and tell me your story, and they'll walk them through the whole process. So you have a friend walking you through this. Do you have any outstanding warrants? Do you need your driver's license updated? Do you need
Your GED.
Yeah,
Oh.
sign up for
Mhm.
that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Thank you for
yeah.
giving feet to the levels.
So any other? I think the one thing for me, and I don't, if you haven't read the Wagon Principle, go ahead, that she intertwines what she's learned through Love Inc. with a story of an actual pioneer woman.
That was
Yeah.
good.
Yes,
I
I
liked
enjoyed
that.
I like that.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really fun because Tom did his internship in Ontario, Oregon, which is just outside of Boise. So we were right on the Oregon Trail, and our kids were in elementary school at the time, so we did lots of Oregon Trail stuff that year.
Nice. Fun.
But yeah, some of the knowing actually walking along the
How
terrain,
they survived.
they were tough.
Through the mountains.
Really tough.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
I have a question. I have a friend that I've been trying to work with, and she has 3 boys that actually none of them at this point are communicating with her. And 2 of the sons are more retarded and not really well emotionally, and the other one that is well emotionally does not have any contact with her, has not.
Mhm.
And I feel like she's losing it more and more, like dementia.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, could it ever be right? She has herself written to this son that is more knowledgeable, and he never answered her, never called her.
Mhm.
And she started out, it was well written, even apologized and that type of thing, but it was long, I'm sure, and
She
probably
gave up.
got him upset because of that reason. But anyway, I'm wondering if it would ever be right for me to call and just say, your mother is losing it. I feel like her mental ability to continue and make decisions and live by herself, that she needs some help from, is that ever wrong to do? Now, I did ask her permission, and she gave me permission.
To talk to the
I wouldn't
boys.
do it without her permission.
Right.
But is
I
it
don't-
wise? Because there is a division in their relationship.
I don't know, that gets really hard when you have the elderly basically all by themselves with no one to come alongside. I don't know what, that's that relationship wheel, that, who is there someone in town that she would listen to, to see? And I don't know financially if she's able to even seek assisted living, or I don't know Deb, what other services are around, but
I mean,
you
I
could
guess
try
if you were
calling.
worried that, there's safety concerns, you could.
Probably not at this point, but maybe at the future.
And is your purpose in reaching out to her son just to make him aware of where she's at right now, or is it to try and mend the relationship?
I guess in some ways I'm thinking of even just to help her in her situation at this time, which probably isn't the right motive. Maybe the relationship is important, but I
But
feel
you
that he's
can't,
in a
yeah.
situation that he could help her. And she owns her own home. Actually, financially, she isn't doing that terrible. But you could be all lost very easily.
And have you ever met the son?
Yes.
Oh, so you do, I mean, you do know who he is, you've
I
had
know.
somewhat of a relationship,
Yes.
it wouldn't be a total cold.
Right.
He knows me.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
mean, you know,
So that
yes,
could-
I've met him
Yeah.
several times.
I think she
Yeah.
could call and
I
just
think that
express
makes
your
sense.
concern over her well-being.
That's what I'm talking about.
And rather than suggesting something for him, some action for him to take,
No, I'm
just
not
to
gonna tell
Just
him.
notify
inform.
him, yep,
Inform.
this is what I'm seeing, I just thought you
That you're
should know.
concerned and.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you could
Yeah, that's
certainly
the type
do
of
that.
thing I was
Yeah.
thinking of.
And hope
Yeah.
that God takes it from there.
Yeah, I would pray before I did it.
Yeah.
And after I did it too.
Yeah, me too. Oh, you have every right to do that, because as a friend and you're concerned, you know, otherwise, I don't know what avenue is open to. I've seen
It
that
gets
happen before.
hard. It gets
People
so
call the
hard.
division of aging and stuff like that, but if there's family members, they have to, don't they have to be the ones to
Mhm.
refer
think
their,
so.
or, I
Does
think,
he live far away?
It's like, I always forget, maybe Waukesha.
No,
Oconomowoc, okay.
I love the tongue there, but
They're in the state.
Good job.
Yeah.
they're in the
Mhm.
state.
Mhm.
yeah. So
As
you can
long
come
as you
up here.
don't have any demands on him for what he would do
Mhm.
and
Just a-
afterwards. Yeah, I don't think you
Mhm.
can, because
Mhm.
No.
since the relationship's not good,
Right.
Mhm.
you're probably not gonna.
And really what he does with that information is up to him.
Sure.
Right.
Just say, I'm just
You know, you
concerned, I
just
just wanted to
let
let
him
you
know.
know, this is what I'm
Mhm.
seeing.
Mhm.
Yep,
We certainly have a right to do that.
and
pray.
she's given you permission, so
Mhm.
she's okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It'd be worth a try.
And I'm praying for your soul. No.
You may think that. I don't know,
You
let me
may
say
do
that.
Yeah, you may do that, don't say it.
You better not tell me that, I might do it. Oh, that was cute, because I probably,
Yeah, I know.
it would be tempted to do
No, I
that.
Does he ever come up here and see her?
Not recently.
But he has, right?
He used to years ago, and that's why I
Oh.
know him, like when his children were younger, but it's just gotten less and less through the years.
Mhm.
And then actually her ex-husband died, and I mean, that's part of the story, and he had some money and gave it to this oldest son that is more intellectual and hasn't really helped the other sons, and
Oh,
so I
that
think
gets
that all
messy.
has something
It's
to
real
do
messy.
with it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to get involved in
And,
that.
thinking this would be a relief for her to have her, because her ex-husband was abusive, but
Do those other children live with her?
no,
Oh, they are not with
They
her?
do not.
Okay.
They also need lots of help.
Yeah. I'm sure.
to some degree anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, it just gets hard. It does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
well,
there are
thank
a
you.
number of people that are doing supportive type roles, but there's only, you know, all you can do, well, it takes a team then,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
someone is inviting her and trying to build relationship to just, let's go on a flower buying trip,
Mhm.
or, being relational to include her in
Yeah.
activities.
Well, that's good,
But
but
other than that.
you're limited to how much you can really do, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is there a video on the wagon principle?
There's not,
Oh, okay.
so that's why you didn't get to see one.
Oh,
I have nothing to show you.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, I wish you would've.
Yeah.
Very
I
fun.
went with the woman wrote, what was it, Narcissa?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was cool.
Yeah.
Reading what she wrote.
Were you surprised how it ended though?
That they got there?
They got there.
I don't remember. I
She's
read
not
it
real
wrong.
relational with her husband.
No.
That's just really,
Well, and she wasn't real relational with her mission work either. Because,
They left the party, they were traveling
what,
with.
2002, or page 2002, page 202.
Yeah.
I forgot. I read it so long ago.
Yeah,
So how did it end? Tell me.
the Indians kill her.
Oh, I
Oh,
didn't
is
read
it
that.
that? I don't remember that either.
I didn't get to that part.
I'm
I
trying
must
to
have not
remember.
got to
Let's
that.
Oh, I
see.
didn't see that last
I
one.
didn't either.
She was repelled by the Indians she actually encountered.
They're dirty, lazy, and sinful. They ignored her standards of privacy and cleanliness. Had she been more flexible, more willing to meet the Cayuse on their own terms, to speak their language, enter their lodges, accept them into her world, she might not have ended up being brutally beaten and dumped in the mud to die. And it's like,
I
oh.
didn't read that page.
I didn't either. I
Whole
actually,
thing, doesn't it?
I thought it
Didn't
was
happily
done
ever
because
after.
then it went into stage
never
1,
read
2,
that
3 in
either.
the summary, and I'm like, okay, I skimmed
done.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got to that
We have
page.
to be adaptable, ladies.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Or we're gonna be dumped in the
Wow.
mud.
Well, and I think it just, sometimes God doesn't work in the way you think he's gonna work.
He does not. You're right.
Yeah.
And if you, at least in my life, what I have found, if you can't give up what you thought was gonna be and say, oh, it's just not bad, it's just different. And
I really like that comment. It's not wrong, it's just different.
Exactly.
With so many things.
mhm,
So many things.
Your
With everything.
preference.
Yeah.
Your preferences.
yeah. I mean, she wasn't going to change them into the white middle class culture. I mean, and
And our community is becoming much more interracial.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
But if we can realize they bring good things to the table too, how much better is that?
You just had to wreck it, didn't you, Paula?
You're the only one that read it. That's
But
funny.
I was like, 'cause when I
We were
got
all
there,
living in La La Land.
I
We were in our own little world.
well,
All
'cause-
is well.
yeah, they got there, Yahoo! And then it was like, I turned the page, it was like, oh.
She was killed.
Brutally beaten and left in the mud.
And all this sweet stuff before.
Oh, yeah. It's like, Lois, why did you tell me that? I didn't even know that. But I guess,
It's a realistic picture.
it's a realistic picture.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, well, for us in the church, just dealing with parishioners, and I think here at Loving, it's like you have these dreams for people, and they may not be particularly realistic, and so to let go and let God do His thing where He needs to do it, and not get in His way.
Not get in his way.
I have a better story ending.
Okay,
that
let's
I
go.
just received today, which was, to me, I'm very interested in the persecuted church around the world.
Mhm.
And Asiya Bibi was a prisoner for her faith in Pakistan for 8 years. She was on death row for 8 years. To me, that was a prayer request that was impossible.
Mhm.
And she is now in Canada with her daughters.
Wow.
Has finally arrived. Even after she got out of prison, they waited a while before they allowed her to fly to Canada. And part of it might have been for her own protection, actually, because it isn't only the government, it's these terrorists that want to kill her. I mean, there were demonstrations in the street because she was well known. And so, I mean,
Oh my
God
gosh.
does answer prayer.
Wow.
And I think, I like that, because I think even here, as we deal with everything, to realize that God answers prayer, and it has to be His answer sometimes.
I think she said that in the last, it was just a really good comment that Lois made. was Pray first.
Yeah.
Always.
That we're only
And-
tools, how God will use us.
We're not the final answer.
No.
That was a good thing
Yeah.
from here. Not
Yeah.
the final answer.
And just to even think, the blessings that we have, because there are millions of women that are under such oppression,
Exactly.
barely surviving.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's just, we are blessed beyond measure.
Oh, yeah. So I thank all you ladies for being so
Yeah.
faithful.
It was so good.
It was
Very
good.
It was very good.
And
Good discussion.
yeah, and I run the class again in the fall, 'cause we didn't wanna start it now again, because the summer just gets too,
Oh,
just
people are
summer,
gone.
yeah.
Mhm.
So in the fall, I don't wanna do it every week, cause I think that
No.
every other week's a
We're-
better
we're tough
rhythm.
this
It works out
It
much
is.
better.
And it was really timed good.
Yeah.
The timing is great.
We keep that
Yeah, there
schedule.
was, but,
Yeah.
different.
12 to 1,
Yeah.
you know, we knew what was up. Very good.
Yeah.
And you were very good at keeping it pretty much on time.
Well, we wanna respect your time, because you won't come back if we're messing around here. So,
This study is based on that book, right?
mm-hmm,
So the book covers all of that.
yep,
Yeah, okay, do you have that book for sale?
mm-hmm. There's,
Oh.
actually,
Because
we
I-
can't technically sell them because
we
they were
can pur-
donated, but we can ask that we have a donation.
Oh.
So right there,
Oh, I
yeah,
wondered if you
anytime.
had some.
And then, you,
You're gonna have that in the fall.
yep, yeah, we'll offer it again, cause I'm sure we'll have more volunteers, and I think it's such a different concept that once people start talking about it, that more, it's like, more people begin to be curious
Yes.
about it. And the other thing is, I mean, like Carmen, you wanted to do it at your church, you can, I have there's a copy of the videos, and I think we have 2 copies of the videos, but you can also buy them on her, if you just Google Redemptive Compassion, you can buy everything, the books, the leaders we changed it a little bit, because in her plans for the class, it was a 90-minute class period, and it was like, no, we can't go
Oh.
there, we gotta have it. So we kinda condensed it, and I thought this seemed
It
to
was
work
fine.
out pretty well.
It does.
But, yeah, know that we have the videos, the handouts, the PowerPoints available if anybody wants them to, like
In your churches? Oh, I didn't know that.
Even depending on timing, Paul and I could help teach or help, whatever works best for you. Because sometimes, you take it to your pastor and he's like,
It's got enough to do.
I'm already up to here,
Yeah.
that we can do what, because I mean, especially partner churches, that's what we wanted. We want to be a value to them.
Yeah.
So any other comments? I'll end us in prayer and. So Lord, we just thank you that you've used Lois to share your wisdom. We ask that we would listen to you as we move forward in our lives, as we try to love others, just as you commanded us, that we remember to love you first, and we remember that you love whoever we're helping, Lord. So I just thank you for these ladies. I just pray blessings on their lives, that they may hear from you and put your principles into work through the power of the Holy Spirit. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' name.